What is going on, everybody? Today we need to talk about something that just went down in Philadelphia that is absolutely massive. This isn't just another drug bust. This isn't just local police arresting a few dealers on a corner. The FBI director himself flew to Philadelphia to stand in front of the cameras and announce what he called one of the largest and most impressive gang takedowns he has ever seen. We're talking about a decade-long drug trafficking operation.
The arrests made and the confiscation of firearms and narcotics during this operation underscore
Dismantled in a single morning. We're talking about $12 million in narcotics seized. We're talking about 47 arrests in one coordinated raid. We're talking about ties to Mexican cartels, underground pill labs, and enough fentanyl to kill half the city found hidden in children's toy boxes. This is a story of Operation Liberty Line. The FBI, DEA, Philadelphia Police, and Homeland Security came together and executed what they're calling a precision missile strike on the heart of America's opioid crisis, Kensington, Philadelphia. And I have the footage, I have the press conferences, I have FBI Director Kash Patel's full statement where he explains exactly why this matters. I have the local news coverage showing the aftermath, and I'm going to break down piece by piece why this is one of the most significant drug busts in modern American history, and why it's also just the beginning of a much bigger war. This story is dark, it's real, and it's happening in our cities right now. Let's get into it, the announcement. Okay, so I'm going to start with the moment this hit the news. This is FBI Director Kash Patel standing in Philadelphia, surrounded by law enforcement, announcing the takedown. This isn't a press release. This is a message. Listen to the tone in his voice.
This is exactly how you safeguard American lives. You go after the organizations that are inflicting pain across America.
What you see amassed in front of you is what happens when you let good cops be cops. Did you hear that? That's not just a soundbite. That's a political statement. Kash Patel is directly addressing the criticism that law enforcement has been hamstrung, that they haven't been allowed to do their jobs. And now he's standing in front of millions of dollars in seized drugs, saying, this is what happens when we unleash them. But here's what really got me. He said this takedown targeted localized street gangs that distribute drugs once they come into the country. He's making a distinction. The cartels get the drugs to the border, but these local gangs, they're the ones delivering poison directly into our neighborhoods. They're the final link in the chain, and that's what got hit today. Now, let's hear from the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is where you realize just how big this case actually is.
Hold on. Did he just say 33 defendants? Did he just say, the largest federal indictment this century brought by our district? This isn't just a big case. This is historic. And he called it a precision missile targeted for maximum impact. That phrase right there tells you everything. This wasn't random. This wasn't a patrol that stumbled onto something. This was planned. This was calculated. The feds have been building this case brick by brick for months, maybe years. And the location? Kensington, the epicenter of the opioid crisis. If you don't know about Kensington, let me paint you a picture real quick. Understanding Kensington. Kensington, Philadelphia, is ground zero for America's fentanyl epidemic. It's a neighborhood where people openly inject drugs on the sidewalks in broad daylight. It's where children walk to school and have to step over unconscious bodies and use needles. It's where entire blocks have been taken over by what locals call open-air drug markets. You can watch videos online. It looks like a zombie apocalypse. And this has been going on for years. The community has been begging for help. Families have been begging for someone to do something. And on October 24th, 2025, at 4 a.m., that help finally arrived. Let me show you the local news coverage from the morning. This is when residents woke up to armored vehicles, helicopters, and SWAT teams flooding their streets. The streets of Philadelphia are safer tonight after prosecutors say they took down a major drug operation that's been terrorizing Kensington for years. Listen to that word, terrorizing. That's not hyperbole. That's the reality. This wasn't just drug dealing. This was a gang that controlled territory through violence and intimidation. And look at what they found. Fentanyl, crack cocaine, heroin. This gang, the Weymouth Street Gang, wasn't just selling drugs. They were flooding the market. They were the supply line. Now, let's hear about the scope of the arrests. 33 indicted, 32 already in custody, ties to Delaware, New Jersey, and Puerto Rico. This wasn't just a Philly operation. This was a regional network. These guys were moving product across state lines, working with suppliers in multiple cities. This is organized crime, and the authorities are calling it historic for the district. But here's what I need you to understand. This takedown didn't happen overnight. This was a 6-month undercover investigation. Let me show you what that looked like. The investigation. How they did it. So, Operation Liberty Line wasn't just a raid. It was a carefully orchestrated, multi-agency investigation that took half a year to build. Federal agents, Philadelphia PD, Homeland Security, they all worked together to infiltrate this organization from the inside. Here's how it went down. Undercover agents posed as buyers. They traced shipments. They followed the drugs from Mexico through Texas and into Philadelphia's ports. They identified the suppliers, the mid-level distributors, and the street-level dealers. They built a map of the entire network, and then, on October 24th, they struck. Let me show you the statement from the FBI about how the raid itself went down. 22 at-large defendants arrested, 8 more already in custody being transferred, 11 search warrants executed. That is surgical precision. They hit every location at the same time. Nobody had time to run. Nobody had time to destroy evidence. Nobody had time to warn anyone else. That's the power of a coordinated federal operation. But what they found inside those homes? That's where this story gets truly disturbing. What they found. The horrors inside. At 4 a.m., convoys of black SUVs and armored vehicles rolled into North Philadelphia. Agents in bulletproof vests, rifles drawn. The orders were simple. Breach simultaneously, hit hard, hit fast. One team raided a 2-story apartment above a laundromat. Inside, they found an illegal pill press, not just sitting there, still warm, still operational. This machine was capable of producing 10,000 counterfeit oxycodone tablets per hour. Think about that for a second. 10,000 pills an hour. That's 240,000 pills a day if they ran it around the clock. And these weren't real oxy. These were pure fentanyl, stamped with fake pharmaceutical markings to look legitimate. Another team stormed a basement lab. Rows of chemical barrels, industrial packaging machines, blue tablets marked M30, the fake oxy that's been killing people across the country. They found enough fentanyl in that one location to kill half the city of Philadelphia. Across town, SWAT uncovered stash houses, duffel bags full of cash, crates of assault weapons, AK-47s, Glocks, and even a modified AR-15 with a homemade suppressor. This wasn't just a drug operation. This was an armed criminal enterprise. And here's the part that made my blood run cold. They found guns hidden in children's toy boxes. These people were using kids' toys to hide weapons. That's the level of depravity we're dealing with. In total, here's what was seized. Over 120 firearms, 9 vehicles, $2.4 million in cash, $12 million worth of narcotics. And the entire operation was allegedly run by a man known only as El Doctor, a cartel-linked trafficker who disguised his operation as a local charity. Let that sink in. A charity. People in the neighborhood probably thought he was helping them. Meanwhile, he was poisoning them. The human cost, what this means for Kensington. Now, let's talk about what this actually means for the people who live in Kensington. Because this isn't just about statistics. This is about real human beings who have been living in hell. For years, the residents of Kensington have watched their neighborhood become a war zone. Addicts collapsing on sidewalks, dealers posted on every corner, families too scared to let their kids play outside. Maria Lopez, a local resident, told reporters she hadn't felt safe walking to the store in over 3 years. And the overdoses. My God, the overdoses. Hospitals in Philadelphia report that fentanyl overdoses have risen by 400% since 2020. Paramedics say that on some weekends, they respond to more than 70 overdose calls in a single shift. 70. In one shift. And many of those cases trace back to the same suppliers who were just arrested in this raid. Let me show you what a local official said about what this means for the community. The people of Kensington deserve safety, dignity, and peace as any other neighborhood does. That should not be a controversial statement. That should be the bare minimum. But for years, Kensington has been treated like a lost cause, like a place you just write off and avoid. And the people who live there, who can't afford to leave, have been abandoned. But here's the hard truth, and I want you to really hear this. For the first time in months, after this raid, the streets of Kensington were silent. No dealers, no lookouts, no traffic at 3 a.m. For one morning, the neighborhood felt safe, but everyone knows the silence won't last forever, because where one drug empire falls, another is already being built. The bigger picture, the national crisis. Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just a Philadelphia story. This is part of a national war being fought, block by block, port by port, city by city. Federal authorities say that 90% of synthetic opioids in the United States originate from precursor chemicals manufactured in China. Those chemicals are then shipped to Mexico, where cartels turn them into fentanyl. Then, the cartels smuggle it north across the border. And once it gets into the US, it's distributed by networks like the Weymouth Street Gang. This raid in Philadelphia? It's part of a new federal initiative called the Joint Counter-Narcotics Task Force, launched earlier this year under pressure from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. The goal is to coordinate federal, state, and local law enforcement to dismantle these regional networks before they can spread. But here's where it gets controversial. Not everyone agrees that enforcement is the answer.
Critics argue that the government focuses too much on arrests and not enough on treatment. They say that for every gang you take down, 2 more will pop up because the demand is still there. They say we need to invest in rehab, mental health services, and harm reduction. Supporters of these raids say that without enforcement, thousands more people will die. They say you can't have treatment if the streets are controlled by gangs. You have to establish safety first. And honestly, I think both sides have a point. This isn't an either-or situation. We need both. We need to take down the traffickers who are flooding our communities with poison, and we also need to help the people who are addicted get clean and stay clean. But right now, in this moment, 33 people who were allegedly responsible for bringing unimaginable death and suffering into Philadelphia are behind bars, and that's a win. Law enforcement speaks. The message now, I want to show you something important. This is Philadelphia's police commissioner talking about what this operation represents. Because this isn't just about one raid. This is about a shift in how law enforcement is approaching this crisis. Did you catch that? He talked about one Philly in action. He talked about agencies not working in silos, not fighting turf battles. He talked about collaboration. That's the key. For so long, federal agents and local police didn't communicate well. Cases fell through the cracks. Suspects slipped away because one agency didn't know what the other was doing. But this case, this was FBI, DEA, Philadelphia PD, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Attorney's Office all working as one unit. They shared intelligence. They coordinated raids. They built the case together, and that's why it was so successful. And listen to what he said about the Kayla Scott case. He said when they needed help finding her murderer, he turned to the FBI, and they worked behind the scenes together. That's the relationship that makes operations like this possible. Trust, communication, shared goals. This is the model moving forward. And if it works in Philadelphia, it can work in Baltimore, Detroit, Los Angeles, Chicago, every city dealing with this crisis. The controversy. Is this enough? But now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is this actually going to work? Or is this just a temporary victory? Because here's the reality. The Weymouth Street Gang is gone. But the demand for drugs in Kensington hasn't disappeared. The addicts are still there. The desperation is still there. And criminal organizations are opportunistic. Within weeks, maybe even days, another gang will try to fill the void. Some people will look at this raid and say, see, we need more of this. We need to crack down harder. Other people will say, this is just treating the symptom, not the disease. We need to address why people are using drugs in the first place. And you know what? Both of those perspectives have merit. The question is, what's the right balance? I think what we're seeing here is that enforcement has to be part of the equation. You cannot allow criminal organizations to operate with impunity. You cannot allow neighborhoods to be held hostage by gangs. There has to be consequences. There has to be accountability. But enforcement alone won't solve the opioid crisis. We also need accessible, affordable treatment programs, mental health services for people struggling with addiction, economic opportunities in neighborhoods like Kensington, so people aren't drawn into the drug trade out of desperation, education and prevention programs, so fewer people start using in the first place. This isn't simple, there's no magic bullet. But what happened in Philadelphia on October 24th? That's a step in the right direction. That's 33 fewer people poisoning a community. That's $12 million in narcotics that will never reach the streets. That's lives saved. Man, So let's just recap what we've learned today. We have the largest federal drug indictment this century brought by the Philadelphia District. We have FBI Director Kash Patel flying to Philadelphia to personally announce the takedown and send a message to criminals across the country. We have a decade-long drug trafficking conspiracy dismantled in a single coordinated raid. We have $12 million in narcotics off the streets, 120 firearms seized, and 47 arrests. We have a neighborhood, Kensington, that has been terrorized for years, finally getting a moment of relief. We have families who can let their kids play outside again, at least for a little while. We have a glimpse of what's possible when law enforcement agencies work together instead of in silos. But we also have the hard truth. This is just one battle in a much larger war. The opioid crisis isn't going away because of one raid. The demand is still there. The cartels are still operating. The precursor chemicals are still coming from China. And somewhere right now, another gang is already planning how to move into the territory that the Weymouth Street gang just lost. So, what do you think? Do you believe that enforcement-heavy operations like this are the answer? Or do you think we need to focus more on treatment and prevention? Do you think the federal government is doing enough? Or do you think this is just for show? And here's the bigger question. Can we actually win the war on fentanyl? Or is this a problem that's too big, too entrenched, too profitable for the cartels for us to ever truly defeat? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. This is a complicated issue, and I don't have all the answers. But I know this: something has to change. Too many people are dying. Too many communities are being destroyed. And if operations like this are part of the solution, then we need more of them. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me. This was a heavy one, but it's an important story, and it's happening in real time. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that matter, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Peace.